Hi, welcome to this quick video development tip. Today we'll be looking at Entity Framework Core and making sure we aren't doing our queries in memory. So what we have here is a ASP.NET Core app that has Entity Framework SQL Server as a provider. What we have inside our context is we have one DB set, which is the type example. So if you look at our entities, we have example, which has three properties. It has the ID, is reference for Boolean, and a string reference name. What we also have is initializer. What this is doing is we're just filling the database with three dummy examples. Two that are not referenced, golden and black. One that is referenced with the name brown. So we can actually see that here we are in our configuring services, we're adding our DB context and getting our connection string. Inside the program, before we run our host, we are actually getting a context and initializing. So what I want to look at today is a situation where a developer wants to make his or her code more readable. And what they want to do is they want to take out their code outside of the where link statement and move it to a function. So here we have a function is referenced and starts with B, which takes in an example right here. So yes, we are injecting our context into the controller, which is not the best thing to do, but for this example, we're going to keep it all right here. So inside this function, what we do is take the example, check if it's referenced, and the reference name starts with B. Looks great, easy to read. So if you're just reading up here, all you see is reference starts with B. You don't have to worry about this and starts with. Looks great. So let's do a .NET watch run to actually run this application. After it's finished running, you see we're started. We are going to go over to our Postman or whatever you want to use for an API request, and we're going to hit localhost 5000 API/values. So we're at API/values and send it. Okay, great, right? We get back one that is referenced and starts with B, just like we thought. But there's actually one problem. If we look at our terminal, we will see that there's a warning. What this warning says is the link expression where, so it's right here, cannot be translated and will be evaluated locally. What that means is Entity Framework Core didn't know what was inside this function so that it could translate it to a SQL statement. So what it's doing instead is it's taking everything from example, loading it into memory, and then the server, your code is running the query in memory. This is not good. We want to put as much of that processing onto the database as possible. So one thing that always happens is you can go to an existing solution at any place, and most likely you're going to open it up and you're going to see warnings on the solution. Now, typically, developers ignore them. Maybe not the best thing to do, but it happens. What they don't ignore is exceptions and errors. So, to make this actually be an exception, because we're not intentionally doing this, what we can do is where we pass the options to our context, we can add more options. So, what we can do is we can configure our warnings. And what configure warnings does, it has an action for the warning configuration builder. So we're going to use a lambda, warn dot, and what we're going to do is we're going to throw instead. What throw takes in is params, events ID, and then right here the event IDs or relational event ID. So we can look at the relational event ID, and we can look for a client-side evaluation warning. So what client-side evaluation warning is doing, or what this one event ID is part of the query is being evaluated on the client instead of on the database server, which is exactly what's happening. So we're going to tell our context to, instead of logging as warning, throw this as an exception. So now if we save this, .NET watch run will load this in and restart the server. And when it's done, we will go back to Postman and run this. Now we have a 500 internal server error. And here is the error. So we're looking at this link expression could not be evaluated can be translated and evaluated locally. Exactly the same thing. This will help prevent any accidental performance degradation and make sure that everyone is actually, being careful when they write their entity framework queries. So the bonus tip, let's say we actually really want to pull that function out and to its own little separate function. Well, it's pretty simple actually. So what we can do is when we look at where, LINQ or entity framework can understand expressions. So what we can do is we can actually make this an expression. So let's make an expression that takes in an example and returns a bool. So right here we don't need arguments for this because our argument is the example. And what we're going to do here is we're going to return our predicate. And then right here we will use that. So now we will save this. Let .NET Watch run. And now we will send this and we should get back our one entity again. Now when we look at our console, we don't see any warnings, we don't see any exceptions. What we do see instead of this time is our SQL query being translated. Well, that was the tip for today. Leave any comments, feedback, suggestions, anything like that. Thank you for watching.